Hello. Can you hear me?
All right, Mom, come sit over here. Bella, can you take that baby out of the room just for an hour?
Okay, what am I doing here? Awful. Ah! Bye-bye, baby. You want to watch something? Well, you got a TV in there. Okay. He just dragged the baby down that way. So I think that means, hello, go watch the baby for an hour. Pretty eyes.
Yes, you're not communicating, you're giving me indications that you're hearing on it. You're not in here. Like 3 times.
It's his video thing. I'm trying to watch. And he's got the baby. He's got the baby.
All right, Mom.
Hello. Am I doing it? Anything?
Yeah, you're really loud. Can you talk
Okay,
quieter?
yes.
I don't know if there's a way to turn down the volume or not. I don't know that there is.
I'll just sit back. Is this okay?
Let's see if I can adjust here.
I'm just wondering if I should turn this light off.
Maybe it's mine. No, well, I don't know, maybe. Just when you talk, try not to talk super loud. It may be the fact I got my speakers up really loud.
Okay.
Hey, Robert.
Hi.
I was just trying to turn. Mom, will you say something real quick?
Something real quick.
All right, Robert, you say something real quick.
Something real quick.
I don't know what it is about Mom's microphone, but it's really loud.
Maybe it's just sensitive.
It's a laptop. I'm not sure what's going on with it. We had to get the baby out of the room so it wouldn't scream during this. This has been a really difficult it's been a difficult topic to study. It's been a difficult time in our lives to even find time to even talk about it. There's been a lot go on in our household. It's been a madhouse with 3 babies. And it's hard to even walk into the kitchen, let alone have a podcast. So it's been difficult. I see that Pastor Sam's on here now. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
He's muted.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
I'm hoping that Earl's going to be on here. He said he would be on here too. He might pop in. Have not heard from David in a while. I heard that he was moving to North Carolina, maybe. I don't know if he's still in town. Hopefully he's still watching our show.
Hey, Kit,
Yeah.
I can't see you at all. That's not normal.
Well, I just saw me when I was looking at your screen a second ago.
Right now, as we see, is your
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 flags.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You're right there.
I don't see your face.
Oh, you don't see me. I see.
Yeah.
So you guys can't see my face on screen. Oh, okay. It's because my camera's falling back behind my monitor.
I feel like I'm in witness protection.
Yeah, for sure. You look like one of those videos. You need to change your voice.
Yeah.
So
There we
today's topic is unlocking the truth about hell. And I got some different results than I thought I would. I watched a lot of videos where they talked about synonyms for hell. And depending on what translation you're reading, you're going to get a lot of different synonyms. Googling hell in the Bible and using the concordance, I found that hell was only in there 54 times. That doesn't actually sound like all that much. You can see a breakdown of how many times it appears in other translations. It says in the New King James Version, it only shows up 11 times.
Hey, did they break it down to like, does it occur more in New Testament or only in the New Testament?
That's something I was about to start breaking down, and I hadn't got that far yet. I was surprised though, because we talked about Sheol before, and it says Sheol appears 0 times in the King James Version. And Gehenna, which if you've seen much of the history shows, they talk about Gehenna is like a fire pit in Jerusalem where whenever they were sacrificing babies, that's where they would have sacrificed the babies. And it's referred to as the burning pit. And also Tartarus, something I heard a lot about as I was studying this topic. Look how many times they show up. That 0 times in the King James Version, which I almost have a hard time believing that. I'm gonna have to go in and I'm gonna have to flip through my physical book because I don't think the internet's even telling me the truth here. Sam,
Well,
do you remember?
I was going to say those words like Sheol and Gehenna, I think Sheol is the Hebrew word that sometimes is translated as hell, and Gehenna, I think, was the Greek word that sometimes was translated as hell. But like you said, that one was just the trash heap of Jerusalem, just outside of town, I think.
This is a topic you can't really take someone's word for, in my opinion. You have to do the work yourself, because I must have heard 15 people tell me that Tartarus, I think it said there was a place where Paul referred to Tartarus, and that's where the angels had been locked away. But depends on what version of the Bible you're reading.
Yeah, because I found it, I typed it into mine because I use the Bible app, and you can choose between like all the different versions of the Bible. And I think I've got mine set on Holmes Christian Standard, and type it into the search, and it comes up under 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4. It's mentioned in there.
Can you read that for us real quick?
For if God didn't spare the angels who sinned, but threw them down into Tartarus and delivered them to be kept in chains of darkness.
That's a big misconception right there that a lot of people have, that he says the angels are going to hell. And here in Luke 16:23, I want to do a verse comparison between different translations and just show how they can be different. So this is the Orthodox Jewish Bible. And I did think it was interesting that the Luke is Lucas. But 16:23 in the Orthodox Jewish Bible says, and lifting up his Einayim in Sheol, where he was in the torments of agony, he sees Avraham Avinu off in the distance, and Alazar at Tish at his kiek, or bosom. So that's a lot of words that are hard to understand. Obviously, we're not Jewish people. But here in the Wycliffe Bible, it says he raised up his eyes when he was in torments and saw Abraham afar and Lazarus in his bosom. Luke 16:23, the 1599 Geneva Bible says, and being in hell and torments, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. The Holman Christian Standard, I put that one in there because I know isn't this the one you said you read, Robert?
Yeah.
And being in torment in Hades, he looked up and saw Abraham a long way off and Lazarus at his side. Now, I'd like to know when the Holman Christian Standard Bible was written, because if the 1599 Geneva Bible says hell, what made them put Hades? Are they? Because I believe the Geneva Bible was one where they decided not to translate it from the Latin Vulgate, and they went straight back to the Greek. And if the Geneva Bible is saying they got it from the Greek and they're putting hell in there, then there's a big problem with how they chose to put that.
Now, Hades is a Greek term.
Right. Holman seems like it would be right, but I'm kind of thrown off by the Geneva Bible putting hell.
Hey, this says the Holman Christian Standard Bible is a modern English Bible translation from Holman Bible Publishers. The New Testament was published in 1999, followed by the full Bible in March 2004.
So let me
So-
look up the 1599 Geneva Bible and see what they say about that.
It has a middle school reading level.
It's too far
Maybe
above
that's
me.
why I like it. I think I just ended up setting it on that app that I use. Either that or my a Bible I have was a Holmes Christian Standard Bible that somebody gave me.
All right. It says it preceded the King James Version by 51 years. It was primarily the Bible of the 16th century English Protestantism and was used by William Shakespeare. It was one of the Bibles taken on the Mayflower. Geneva Bible was used by many English dissenters and is still respected by Oliver Cromwell's soldiers at the time of the English Civil War. Huh.
How does that one, how far away was that one compared to the first Bible published? Can't remember what year that was.
The first Bible ever published?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called. The
The Gutenberg was the
Gutenberg?
first one.
Well, that was the
on
first one
printing press.
printed by a
Yeah.
printing machine.
yeah.
So the Gutenberg, 10 oldest Bibles of all time. All right, so 1568, the Bishop's Bible. The Geneva Bible was the next one, 1560. So it would have been the second one, I guess, maybe. Or maybe this is going in reverse order. 15, yeah. Okay, so we're going back. That was the Geneva Bible would have been the second of the top 10, closest to our time. So older than that was the Great Bible, which was 1539 English, and the Coverdale Bible, 1535.
Leningrad Codex.
Leningrad Codex, 1008 AD.
What year was the Gutenberg Bible published? Printed.
1540s, I think.
That was pretty close to.
So these codexes would be not printed by the Gutenberg machine, but this is
No,
kind
they
of.
were.
I thought it was written in German first. So why are they saying the oldest book is in English? The Coverdale Bible, 1535, they're saying is in English.
What? Go back. Discovered or published location in Switzerland.
And Belgium. But why would they choose English?
Because wasn't the Gutenberg
Money.
Bible written in German?
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
Gutenberg was in German.
Yeah, I thought most of the Protestants were led by Martin Luther, which is part of the Holy Roman Empire in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe I know that there was a lot of laws about publishing it in another language, and maybe the English over across the channel were just far away enough to keep from getting their heads chopped off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, 1611, that's when they had the King James version.
Isn't that when King James broke away from like the Holy Roman Empire? Or
I think he had already done that.
I don't know,
there's
but
our history lesson.
I thought the last one I wanted to show is the King James version, and then there's also this Anglicanized Catholic edition. It says in the Catholic edition, it says in Hades, where he was being tormented. So they got rid of the part about his eyes for some reason. On all the other ones, he says he looked up with his eyes and saw Lazarus at the bosom of Abraham. But in this one, it just says in Hades where he was being tormented. He looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. So they got rid of bosom.
And they also
put it in
changed
Hades.
torment. They also changed torment. Like going from he was in torments.
A place of torments and then being
Yeah.
tormented. which is different. Okay, and the last one I want to look at is the King James Version. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. So the main thing I wanted to talk about with that verse is it shows that there is a divide in hell. There's different parts of hell. And if we look at the ideas of the Renaissance, Dante's Inferno, the book, which is a book of fiction, describes different parts of hell. And in this image here, you can see there's like a limbo and a lust and gluttony and greed. But the main thing a lot of people don't realize is that everyone goes to hell. Even Jesus himself went, at the time of the crucifixion, went down under the earth for 3 days. And it says that Jonah went into the earth, and I believe David discussed what his fate would be. But they also talk about paradise. Jesus, when he was crucified, he told the thief next to him on the cross that he would be with him in paradise today. But then Jesus went into the underworld for 3 days. So where is paradise? Is paradise under the earth? And that's so. And then there's the question: is any of this supposed to be literal, or is it metaphorical? And it's unlikely that Jesus would say a bunch of metaphorical things that he didn't plan on them. I mean, he made the parables hard to understand on purpose. This isn't hard to understand. It's not a parable. He's just saying hell is eternal fire, basically. And it's not a metaphor. He's not comparing one thing to another.
I know that some people kind of try to illustrate, even maybe some of us get some of the Dante's Inferno and take it too literal or try to read into it. But, you hear it talked about different places in hell, which is a pretty common belief throughout a lot of, Christian circles, even Roman Catholicism, where they talk about purgatory and stuff. But all the different stages or places of it, which would kind of, I think we talked about the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, as in if that was a true story or a true picture of hell. It kind of gives you the picture that a righteous man was in the earth and an unrighteous man was in the earth. There was a gulf fixed between them, but it kind of gives you a picture that, hell is a place in the earth, but you've got maybe two different parts of hell, one for punishment and torment, and one that's Abraham's bosom.
Didn't the Greeks kind of do that too? Like different Greek stories, people were like punished in different ways. Like, there's the story that first thing came to my mind was the guy had to roll the rock up the hill. Wasn't that a Greek mythology? Like that was his punishment, was having to roll the rock up the hill. Everybody, it seemed like there were a lot of different punishments in Greek mythology too.
Yeah, and they had the river Styx and the guide that had to be paid a coin in order to ride down the river Styx, and they had the gates of hell, just like the Greek Jews did.
And that's like if you watch the new Moon Knight, it falls more into Egyptian mythology, and they're like the plains of grain or whatever it was that was their paradise, and had to ride the boat, but it weighed their hearts.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far in that show.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, only on episode 4 or something like that. There was a TikTok comedian, Christian comedian on TikTok that I was listening to, and he had a pretty interesting point about Lazarus that you were just talking about. Like, how messed up is it that Jesus takes Lazarus to the afterlife, and the rich man is having a terrible time, and Lazarus is being lavished all of his treasures in heaven. And then all of a sudden, Jesus is like, "Oh, wait a minute, we're gonna bring you back, put you back in that body again." You're gonna be blind and crippled and starving, and dogs are gonna be licking your wounds. That had to have been quite the traumatic experience for Lazarus to experience heaven and then go back into that body again.
Yeah, and you'd think like if that was a literal real story, he was taken out of a paradise and put back into hell.
But it's not unheard of, though. There are plenty of people who have had near-death experiences that claim they did not want to come back, and they were put into a situation just like that, where they're in a wheelchair, their back's broken, they can't even feed themselves. I actually know a person like that right here in Grove that has that exact same thing going on. And that's got to be, it can't rock your faith, though, because you've already experienced it. And so that's got to be some kind of, that's got to be a weird limbo for a person to know what's on the other side without any doubt, but yet still, you gotta really feel like you got a purpose here, I would think.
Well, you were talking about some of the other words, that one word Sheol, where it talks about kind of a hell, or sometimes it's referred to as the grave, translated as the grave, not just hell. But when Samuel was dead, and the story about King Saul calling up his spirit from the witch of Endor, it talks about he was in Sheol and brought up. So kind of like a grave, or
They talk
even hell
about Sheol
itself,
being like under the earth.
Yeah.
And it's like the grave, but then they put people in caves above the ground.
Sometimes, I mean, the traditional way is you'd entomb someone in a family tomb, and then after the process of time, you'd go and collect their bones. And that's what they did in the Old Testament. And I think even some early New Testament times, from what we see, they would collect their bones and put them in what's referred to now as like an ossuary or something like that. But they would save the bones after the body had decayed.
Didn't they still do that throughout Europe, even here in the US? You know, you have the tomb where you put the family member. Basically, when the next family member dies, you kind of gather up their remains and stuff them in a box or a nook or something.
We just cremate them now.
Yeah. And still put them in a box and stuff them in a nook.
Yeah, that's right.
I've never heard of the modern practice of doing that.
Basically, a way to, like, the family buys the plot. It might bought it like 100 years ago, and they just keep reusing it. You know, basically, when that body decays, they would, I don't know if the practice is still used or if it was more like 100 years ago before we embalmed heavily and stuff, and they just moved the bones over and put them in a crevice or something. That way they can make room for the next.
A crevice.
Well, you'd be dead and rotted.
My luck, I'll be lost in the couch cushions or something.
Hey, my grandpa was. When he was cremated, my grandma kept him in a closet, and then when she passed, they couldn't find him.
Oh my gosh. I was in a storage unit the other day, and my girlfriend came across a sealed wooden box, and she asked me, "Is that your dad?" And I was just like, "I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he's in a box in the kitchen on the above the microwave." But I don't know who's in this box in the storage unit. This guy right here on the right, I wanted to kind of highlight the people I listen to on TikTok so that other people can find them. This guy, the singing theologian on the right side there, he has some of the most interesting things to say that I've heard on TikTok, and I've been looking pretty hard. But I was really interested in his perspective on the Book of the Dead. You know, Moses was from Egypt, and he was brought up by Egyptians, and his mother would have went by Egyptian religion. And the majority of Egyptian life and religion revolved around preserving the dead for the afterlife. And in this picture, you can see the Book of the Dead is a scroll, but it's also written on the inside of the temples, on the walls, and hieroglyphics. And it would be all about basically how to preserve the soul for the afterlife. I think his perspective is interesting, that he believes that Moses wrote the Torah as a book of life, which it says in Genesis and in Revelations. But he's talking about how the scroll that is being unsealed in Revelations is the book of life. And it's not just a list of names, that it's more than that. And I thought it was kind of interesting that he says Moses was basically writing a book for how to live while you're alive, as opposed to the Egyptian idea of making your whole life about preparing for what's beyond. Which that's kind of two ways to say the same thing, but it can be very different. I just want to encourage you to, look this guy up, the Singing Theologian. I really liked his perspective. As you can see, he hasn't been on there long. He's only got 26 likes, and one of those comments is mine. He just posted this 6 days ago, so I got in a little bit early. This favorite right here, that's me, his one favorite or whatever. So, but of all the people I've listened to, this guy has a really good perspective. It resonated with me. Another one that I liked from TikTok was this lady. Her name is Rebecca Johns HP. She is an Armenian woman, and we talked about Aramaic and Armenian being confused a while back. And she says that they use an Aramaic version of the Bible, and it skipped the Greek translation and the Latin translation. So this is translated into English directly from the language of Jesus. And she goes over with a fine-tooth comb. She's looking at a book someone wrote where they're showing comparisons between this word and that word, and how in Aramaic it can just be one dot in the wrong spot. Like it's the exact same word the whole way through. It's all the same word, and then the dot has just been slightly moved, and that can change something dramatically in what it's saying. And I think some of the things that she's saying can probably clear up a lot of confusion, just seeing it directly from the Aramaic. So you might go back and look these people's names up later on and listen to what they have to say. Some other synonyms for hell, besides, we've already talked about Hades, Gehenna, the underworld. We talked about Sheol. Tartarus is one I've been looking up. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about Tartaria. Ever since the war in Ukraine happened, there's all these conspiracy theories about it being the Tartarian Empire. And some of these theories are as bad as the flat earthers, as far as just getting way out there with the stuff they're saying. But I was trying to figure out, does Tartaria have anything to do with Tartarus? And it is possible that the Greek Tartarus name may have come from an enemy civilization, kind of like you were talking about with Lucifer being a priest that they wanted to slander, so they put his name in there as the devil. It's possible that it could be a situation like that, where they refer to their enemies as the land of hell. I never found a definitive, like I said, everyone got so heavy into the conspiracies, it was kind of hard to to cipher out facts. A lot of things they say sound really, really convincing, but usually there's one little piece in there that's so wrong, it's hard to even keep listening to them. Down here at the bottom, I have the Aramaic Bible. After listening to that lady on TikTok, I looked up the Peshitta Aramaic English New Testament interlinear translation. This is the one that I found that a lot of them that I found are actually saying it in Aramaic. They're like on YouTube, they're speaking in another language. And this is the one thing I could find where it was actually in English where I could read it. And when I looked up the Aramaic Bible, I found this, it's like, here's the full text. You can go through and you can read the whole text here. I've got it all laid out for you. So if you're interested in reading the Aramaic version, I did my best to try to find a good copy of that. One of the things I wanted to touch on at the very beginning that I never hit was Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation to which are to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus hath made me free from the law of sin and death. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh. I'm going to read just a little bit more of Romans 8. For what the law, that the righteous of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God. But ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. If so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you. Now, if any man have not the Spirit of Christ, he is none of his. He is none of his. And if Christ be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the Spirit is life because of righteousness. But if the Spirit of him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by the Spirit that dwelleth in you. So this brings me to another question. Is Jesus part? I mean, okay, in the Trinity, we talk about there's the Father, the Spirit, and the Son. The Spirit is what gave Jesus the ability to do all of these things. It wasn't like a lot of people, they try to say that Jesus was some kind of metaphysical master, that he just meditated so much that he was able to do miracles or something, like he was just a man. And I think it's really important to not dismiss the Holy Spirit. If it wasn't for the Holy Spirit, he couldn't have done any of these things.
Yeah.
And even he says that in the new kingdom to come, even the least of you will be greater than John the Baptist. I don't feel greater than John the Baptist myself. I do ask for the Holy Spirit to speak to me and to talk to me. But I just feel like there's a lot of people today who are trying to make Jesus out to be some kind of meditating hippie who got his chakras aligned and just like new stuff. And I don't think that's what it is at all. I think that I think maybe Jesus was a person who was righteous enough to receive the Spirit, but it's it all has to be planned, or I mean, none of it can be an accident. It had to be Jesus. It couldn't have been someone else. And I don't think that someone has the ability just to gain Christ-like powers by humming and, you know, starving themselves. What do you guys think? Is Jesus a man who achieved a high degree of enlightenment like Buddha? Or
No,
is this
Jesus
Holy
is-
Spirit?
Jesus is God. He's all everything. He's omnipresent. I mean,
I think
there,
it's always
But
like,
is that true? Because he says, he talks about his father, and everything's through his father. So is he? But then again, I think God is talking through him. Like a lot of times when Jesus is talking to someone, like I don't remember who it was exactly. He said, have you, do you believe in the Son of God, or the Son of Man, is how he puts it, which is very confusing to me. But he says, have you heard the Son of God's voice? And he says, well, tell me who he is so that I can worship him. And he says, you have heard him, you have seen him, and he is the one that's with you. And so he's talking in a third person. You know, it's like he's going around saying, Pastor, it's like if Pastor Sam was to talk to you and he was to say, Pastor Sam thinks this and Pastor Sam thinks that. Well, the only reason why you would talk like that is if you weren't that person. So it's like God's Spirit is talking through Jesus and referring to Jesus as the one who's with you. And he calls him the Son of Man. I never have understood. I think the last 3 times we met, I think I said I was confused about why he called himself the Son of Man. Because we always refer to him as the Son of God, but that's not how he referred to himself. And it seems like he would want to separate himself from the flesh. So why does he call himself the Son of Man?
That's just the way that that particular author was referring to him. But John makes it pretty clear in a couple different passages, you know, where in John 1, he says the Word became flesh and the Word was God. John 10, the Father and I are one, talking about Jesus, that made that statement. And even Paul believed that Jesus and God were the same one in his writings.
That brings up another interesting point that I was thinking about this week, is that whenever the Word in the beginning of creation, in the beginning, there was the Word. So, and it says that God made the universe with a word. Is he talking about the Bible? Because a lot of people just interchangeably use the word Bible and the word, but he's talking about Jesus there. And Jesus is not the Bible. There's lots of parts of the Bible that are not included. And it really makes me wonder, is he talking about the voice that permeates the universe and that prophets hear and prophets listen to? Throughout the Bible, they're hearing someone talking to them. They're having an inner dialogue, and they're compelled to act, to go to Nineveh and warn them of destruction. And but that wasn't written in a book. He didn't read it in a book. And it wasn't the Bible that they're referring to whenever David's hearing these voices, Joseph's hearing these voices. All of these people, Moses is hearing a voice on Mount Sinai. None of them are reading a book. And so I think it, I don't want to get anybody doubting or anything like that, anybody that's watching this. But I think that when he's talking about the word was flesh and in the beginning was the word, I think they're talking about the voice, the voice that talks to us. It's God here and now talking to you now. Telling if you'd listen, he's talking to you now.
If you read all of John 1, though, it's pretty clear where it's talking about, it kind of draws the connection between Jesus and that word. John 1:1, in the beginning was the word was with God, and the word was God. And later on it says, and that word became flesh, talking about Jesus. If you go back to the story of the three Hebrew children, it kind of gives a picture that even before Christ's birth, you had a picture of Jesus who existed in what they call a Christophany, his appearance in the fiery furnace. If you want to take it literal, that's
I believe that's true. I believe
had to see that.
I believe that 100%, that it is Christ that they're talking about. My question is, a lot of people refer to it as the King James Version. The KJV necessarily is the word. And I think there can be confusion about, are they talking about Jesus is the word? And is Jesus talking to me? Or are we talking about believing every word that was printed by the Gutenberg machine? Do you see where I'm getting at?
I see what you're getting at. I know some people, use the term, it's almost like, we're talking about hell. And I think the term hell was a generic term for the grave, or a holding place, the place where your spirit goes before judgment, whatever you want to talk about it. But it also kind of comes out to being the eternal lake of fire too. When we talk about hell, sometimes those words get just kind of blended together, and maybe the term word gets blended together to talk about the Bible, but it also talks about Jesus.
When you're talking about preterism, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about preterism. Preterism is the belief that Jesus already died back in 70 AD, and that the hell has already been defeated and death has been defeated, and we're already living in the New Jerusalem. And
Amillennialism.
To me, the whole idea of arguing the historicity of the Bible is not the key factor in what we should be seeking. We all should be seeking to learn the Bible as best we can.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think that that's the end goal. I think the end goal is to have a working relationship with the living God, the living word, and that He's speaking to you now. And I think that's why a lot of people are turned off by the church and the Bible and Christianity in general. It's because they think it's an old dead book that's not relevant anymore. Why should we believe what those people said thousands of years ago? But I think the message that is trying to be said is that God's talking to you now. Listen to His voice. Have a relationship with Him now. Just like Adam and Eve, the original sin was them being separated from God and being embarrassed and not wanting to talk to Him. And that's what we see throughout the Bible, is people forgetting that God exists. And even the Catholics, we talked about the Pope being the living embodiment of God on earth in His absence. The Catholics actually believe that God's not around anymore, and that we need a stand-in to speak for Him. And that's gotta be the Robert.
It's not just at the papal level. It's all the way down to the church. You commit a sin, you have to go to your priest. He's the only one that can absolve you. And then it's just like, that was the worst thing in the world, like in medieval Europe, was being excommunicated. If you were excommunicated from the church, you had no chance of going to heaven. You were done. And that was like, I think that was.
How convenient is it for you to confess to a person that'll keep your secrets?
Right. And it's like, I can go out and steal something. I just go to church and confess my sins, and I'm absolved, done, ready to go do it again.
And no one knows any better. Nobody knows the truth about you. That's got to be the most evil thing.
But I think that's the worst part is it takes you away from God. They put this barrier that doesn't allow you to speak to God.
And that's
You
got to
know,
be intentional. They probably don't want you receiving God's message.
yeah.
Well, that was why there was never a common language Bible until 500 years ago.
And that's why they used it as kindling when they burned you at the stake.
But if
Yeah.
you were taught to read, you were only taught to read the Bible. And most people were not allowed to read. We're not allowed to be taught to read. But that was the thing that to me is the worst part is, I'm a firm believer in like your relationship with God. It's a personal relationship. You don't have somebody in the acting as a mediator. You go, okay, you tell me, and then I'll tell you to say a few things, and then you're done. You know.
Yeah.
Grab your rosaries and start counting.
Pay money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what led to the Holy Roman Empire falling.
Oh yeah, indulgences.
Yep.
But the Holy Roman Empire lasted for a heck of a long time, up until like the early 1800s.
Early 1800s, the Roman Empire.
The
Holy
Holy
Roman.
Roman.
Oh,
Let's look it up.
It was basically half of Europe, or most
Yeah.
of Europe.
hey, Pastor Sam, I need to ask you something.
Okay.
In your opinion, you know how people say like their dad or their husband or grandma's looking down at you and she'd be so pleased, like when she's already passed, supposedly in heaven, and they act like that person can see the people on earth and what they're doing and all that stuff. I don't believe that. I don't believe that a soul, when they've gone on to heaven, that they're seeing people, their family, their loved ones on earth. And the reason why I believe that is because it wouldn't be heaven if they could see what we're doing down here.
Yeah, I think where a lot of people get that idea, and like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong view on that either. But I know a lot of people will go to where Hebrews 11 and Hebrews 12 talks about. Hebrews 11 talks about all the heroes of the faith, by faith Abraham, by faith Isaac, and all of them that are dead and gone. And then in chapter 12, it says, wherefore we are compassed by so great a cloud of witnesses. And it's the idea that as we live, that our heroes of the faith are watching us. And that's kind of what some people kind of take. And I do believe there's probably some way that in heaven you can know about it. But, one thing I think is a misconception sometimes, and I think it's really spelled out sometimes in our church songs that we sing, is that, some people believe there's no crying in heaven. But I don't necessarily believe that. The Bible does talk about that Jesus will wipe away our tears, but you can't really do that if there's not tears in heaven. Now, I think there's a difference between tears and sorrow, but I think tears, some people cry when they're happy, some people cry when they're sad. Some people cry when they just, I don't know, just weird about it and cry all the time. But I think sometimes, crying can be just a overload of emotion, which I think we'll all have when we get to heaven.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think there's a way we know somewhat about what's going on earth and the realm of it, because I think the calendar events that happen on earth determine what's going to happen in heaven.
I never thought about it that way.
But like I said, I don't necessarily have a good answer for you. I mean, I know some people that say, oh, they have to see it. I was like, well, okay, but I mean, what if they don't? That's okay too.
Well, I think it could be a lot of heartache as well as a lot of joy.
Oh, yeah.
If they knew some things, they'd be very joyful for a lot of happiness and things and successes with their children, grandchildren, family, newborn babies and all that. But then there's a lot of sorrow.
Let's say sometimes we make a statement that says, boy, if they knew that, they'd be turning over in their grave, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of the same. I think that's the same maybe euphemism that's used in that same element, like, oh, they're looking down, they're smiling on us
Yeah.
today. Oh, well, they'd be rolling over in their grave. Okay, which one is it?
Right.
One thing that I heard someone that had a near-death experience talk about that I thought was really interesting was she was talking, and it kind of relates to the Native American beliefs. In the Seneca Cayuga tribe, they believe that you are to mourn for like 10 days or whatever, and then you're not to mention their name again for you can mention it one more time like next year, and then you're not supposed to mention their name anymore. And one of the things I heard this person talking about that was an NDE experience, they basically said that you shouldn't call on your loved ones to help you with problems because they're already working on something else. They've got their own agenda that they're working on for God's plan. And if you call on them, then they'll be distracted from their plan to come and listen to what you have to say. Now, whatever problem you have, there's like an angel that's been assigned to you for that task. And it's a person who's good at it. So like, let's say you need a help with interview to get a job. Maybe you have an angel whose special job is interviews, making sure you get that thing. That's the guy you want working on the case. And if you call your grandma to come and help you with it, you might not get the job. Just saying. She's not that good at, computer skills or whatever. So, but it is an interesting idea that you don't know God's plan and you don't know what strings are being pulled on the other side to help you out. And if you were to spiritually interfere by asking specific things, it could totally not go the way that you want it to go. So I kind of like the idea of not bothering them with those ideas. Let them have their time in paradise, and there's a person helping you out that is already skilled in what you need them to be skilled in.
But it's funny because in other cultures, it's all about your family, keeping your loved ones in your memories, talking to them. And, in some cultures, they're the ones that you ask for help, guidance, maybe in their religion, it's like, okay, your family members there to help you get through those things.
That's actually a contradiction I hadn't really thought of, because in the same culture, Seneca Cayuga, they're constantly talking about the ancestors helping them out, ancestors being all around me. They're all in this room. They're all here watching. And yet at the same time, you're not supposed to say their names.
Yeah. But yet who's your ancestors?
They don't know anyway.
Yeah. But they're your family members but that's how you
they can't even name off all their uncles' names. How are they going to tell you who their ancestors were?
But that's just it. Like, they want other cultures, they want to remember their ancestors and their family members, as far back as they can, because it keeps them, I guess, spiritually connected. Watching this map of the Holy Roman Empire, as time goes on, it keeps getting farther and farther away from Rome and the original Roman Empire.
I actually thought, see right there in 932, it's part of Rome.
Right.
And right here, just keeps shrinking and shrinking and getting further away.
And then it's completely out of Italy.
1740. So that's probably about the time that France became more influential, I would think. And maybe Rome was separate from them. I'll have to do some more research on that. That was around the time that the Pope was probably selling kingship to different people.
Was there a time when that's another story about the early popes? Like, there's a family, I can't remember their name, but it was like two family members ended up becoming pope at two different times, and they had illegitimate kids and all kinds of craziness. And they were assigning other family members to important political roles.
The history of the papacy is ridiculous. There was a female pope that was pregnant. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Pope Joan or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Pope John Paul I supposedly was poisoned.
Okay, so we have about 3 minutes till 8:30, and this week's over. I want to talk about. I want to get a vote from you guys of what your opinion is. I'd like to. Because of having the kids here and everything, it's been really chaotic. It's hard to find quiet time. I'd like to propose doing a monthly meeting from here on out. What do you guys think about a monthly meeting versus a weekly meeting?
I think that would be good, because it gives, if we have a subject, we would have more time to be able to study it, ask questions, that come up. Because sometimes I feel really rushed.
I
Well,
do too.
especially
What do you guys think about July 18th?
July, that'd be fine with me.
That's about 5 weeks off.
Okay.
What do you think?
We just want to say we're just going to do it on the third Monday of the month.
Third Monday of the month. Sounds great. So on a topic for next time, we've talked pretty heavily about two things here in the last 10 minutes, the Holy Roman Empire and the papacy. So I'd like a vote. Who would like Holy Roman Empire?
Sure.
All right. How about the Pope? We got to vote for the Pope? Papacy?
Maybe we can do him next time. Wasn't there
Okay.
2 popes at one time? One for the Holy
Yeah, they got
Roman
it
Empire,
divided.
one,
Yeah.
one for
I don't
the
know.
other one.
Okay, so July 18th, we're gonna do the Holy Roman Empire.
All right.
All right.
Maybe we do popes after that.
Yeah, that sounds good. In August. Sounds good. All right, so do your research on the Holy Roman Empire and let's all go in different directions and see where.
Hey, Kit, just remind me, I just live down the hall.
Hey,
Yeah, I about forgot tonight till you text 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put up my here. I don't know if you can take a screenshot or whatever. Here's my email address. It's just my name, klcoffrin@gmail.com. If you have anything visual or topic wise that you'd like to put up, just send me an email and I will add it to the screen so we can see the pictures that you're talking about, or maps or flags or whatever it is that that you'd like to discuss. So yeah, just klcoffrin@gmail.com. Send me an email and I will try to include anything that you'd like to discuss in the next meeting.
Okay, doke.
All right, love you guys. Have a great
Thanks.
month.
Peace be with you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Bella Lugosi. Very